I will now read out the message from Elena, which is entitled Understanding Civil Society Action in the Binayak Sen Case. The case of Binayak Sen, by this I mean the legal case as well as the whole body of civil society reaction across national and social boundaries, is in many ways a landmark in Indian jurisprudence. Apart from the personal agony, pain and agony that I have gone through in being witness to Binayak's uncalled for incarceration and unjust conviction, the case has also intellectually challenged me along with many other citizens of my country and forced so many of us to look critically at the laws and statutes that govern our lives.
And then of course we have the sort of, drafting of the Indian Constitution in 1950. So every aspect of the law now has to match up to the promises of the Constitution. So the Constitution clearly says that all citizens have the right to freedom of speech and expression. So the question is whether Section 124A would pass muster under this larger sort of legal backdrop. And Section 19(2), which is actually the product of the First Amendment to the Constitution, tells you that you can impose restrictions on the freedom of speech and expression, but they have to be reasonable.
I also want to flag something in the context of Binayak, and that is that ever since the sedition law was put into place, it's also been consistently challenged, just as it was in Britain itself. I mean, Britain has used the sedition law in Britain against its own people who stand up and speak up. And similarly, in the colonial context in India, it's always been challenged. And very often, and very interestingly, precisely in the name of a loyalty to the larger nation, as opposed to a loyalty to a government or to a king or a queen.
You have to realize the level of antagonism, the level of antipathy which Binayak Sen generates in north or mid central Chhattisgarh, north. So you are basically fighting a system. You are not fighting just a few political leaders and so on. You are basically fighting the entire system. So Binayak Sen generates enormous amount of antipathy in mainstream Chhattisgarh.
You've got a situation with a ripping free market where the Karnataka lifted the export of low-value iron ore made by sponge iron factories, and India exports that raw material. It's about the third in the world. The world price of that dropped when the Karnataka court.
The question is about the Maoists.
That the concentration of mining and where the companies want to go are not actually the Maoist heartlands. That's the question. And just wondering to what extent your evidence supports that or doesn't.
There's a guy who filed an RTI asking the Chhattisgarh government to list out where all since 2005, that is the time the Salwa Jurm started, MOUs had been signed, when all MOUs had been signed by the Chhattisgarh government, with what all companies and for what all regions the MOUs had been signed. Now that RTI list, a few of us have it. It's not yet made public, but the interesting part is it shows the list of MOUs and the region and the areas, in terms of measurement of where all MOUs have been signed by mining companies and the government. And most of these involve South Chhattisgarh, which is Dantewada, Bastar, Bijapur regions. To that extent, they are the Maoist concentrated areas too.
Himanshu established the Vanvasi Chetna Ashram, and he has been working in Dantewada. He's a Gandhian, and he's been involved in the field of tribal rights for the last 25 years. In May 2009, his ashram was demolished by the security forces in Dantewada, but he continues to work and stay active in the struggle, and he'll be speaking to us now from Dantewada. Where is he speaking to us from?
From Delhi.
From Delhi.
Once we started working on the issues of community health, we realized that it was not health that could be looked into isolation, but that the aspect of health was tied very intrinsically to the socio-economic and political issues in the region. For example, and he quotes about the status of the woman in the village, the role of the panchayat in looking at the status of the woman and the manner in which the position of the woman is outplayed in the society, in the current society.
What is the involvement of the various politicians in association with mining companies in order to deprive the people of their, the people being attacked? What is the connection between the monopoly capitalist companies and the politicians? How does that system explain that role?
पूछ रहे हैं कि politicians और mining companies के का जो संबंध है,
it is extremely prevalent, not just in the region, but Himanshu ji quotes the example of the Jharkhand ex-Chief Minister, Mr. Madhu Koda, who was recently caught in a bribing allegation of rupees 4,000 crores. 1 billion.
If you want to organize a similar event, you can get in touch with us and we can help in organizing it. I think the main point is there's a lot of political lobbying which this campaign group has been doing. We've got about 5 MPs on board, some of whom have written to the Indian Prime Minister, so British MPs that is. And this group can be a part of that process. So all it is it's sometimes it's just a question of writing to your local MP, you've got generic letters and things you can adapt, and asking them to support this campaign. And there are different ways in which things are run. There's the Minister of South Asia, for example, who is